Hey, what's up everybody? It's Luke here. We had a bit of a power outage today, so I figured, hey, I'll just do a video on Instagram Live. Good chance to try doing a live video. And then I just realized that Instagram only puts the video up for 24 hours. And then after those 24 hours, it goes down. So I'm like, oh, all right, I'm gonna have to redo this video again now. So what I did is I ended up taking my whiteboard and putting it outside because I couldn't use the lights in my room. So we used good old sunlight to shoot this video. So I'm going to shoot that video again for you now. Hopefully it'll be better now that I've thought about the concept before. So take a look at this. I actually had to jump onto the shed at home here. Jump onto the roof of my place. Ready? Check this out. I had to actually, right, this is my room. If you saw the other video before, my parents basically kicked me out of the house into this room. Made me this room especially so that I could practice piano because I was so crazily noisy. And I went onto the roof, right? And jimmied this thing up. So I got that set up so that I could do some filming today. So I'm gonna put that on there now. So the concept I wanna talk to you guys about today is really important to me because it's about memory and it's about figuring out how our brain works with memory. And until you understand this, you can make a lot of mistakes when you're practicing the piano. These are a lot of the mistakes I made. And so I wanna stop you guys from making similar mistakes so that you can memorize pieces quickly and so that you don't get frustrated and spend heaps of time wasted at the piano doing things that aren't going to be effective. All right, so the first thing, look at this. You get a bit of a sneak peek of what it's going to look like at the end. Bit of a cheat look there. All right, so if you can imagine that this is your brain, all right, you probably know about short-term memory. So this is going to be short-term memory, and then we've also got long-term memory. So short-term memory is kind of like when you meet somebody at a party, but then you forget their name, even though you've just met them like, I don't know, 5 minutes ago. So if something's only in your short-term memory, there's a good chance that you're gonna forget it soon. And long-term memory is something that you know so well, kind of like your times tables, right? You've learned them over and over and over again, and so you can kind of remember them really easily from memory now, even if you haven't reviewed them in like a whole long, years and years. So the other thing I like to add here, since this is a spectrum, is medium-term memory. All right? And that's kind of stuff that you can remember within about a day or in a couple of days. So if you remember that thing, take a 2-day break and review it again, you can still remember all of that information. Now, what most people do when they learn a new piece of music is they try and take that piece of music, right? And they want to bypass all of this and just get it straight into their long-term memory. But the problem with doing that way is that you end up getting overwhelmed and you crash and burn. So this is what I used to try and do. So I'd repeat something over and over and over and over again in the hopes of getting it straight into my long-term memory. And then the next day I'd try and practice that thing and remember it, and I couldn't, and I get really frustrated. And that's because memory doesn't work that way. It works a little bit differently to that. So what happens is, if you put something into your short-term memory, right, and you review it about 3 times, okay, so let's just say you got a little fragment of music, and you play it from memory 3 times. You make that your goal, to play the fragment of music 3 times. Then what happens is, it gradually makes its way towards your medium-term memory, all right? Now you can sit there and practice that over and over and over again. You could do it 10 times, 50, 100 times. But the reality is, it's not gonna move much further into your medium-term memory until you take a break and review it again, all right? So if you go to bed that night, wake up the next morning and review it again, it gets closer to your medium-term memory. Go to bed that night, wake up the next morning and try it again, and again, and again. And I found with me, it takes about 7 times before I go back and look at that music and it's like, yep, I got this now. I can remember it. I don't need to spend any time practicing it. It's made its way into my medium-term memory, right? So for me, it's usually around 7 times because I don't have a natural knack for memorizing things like a lot of other people do. So a quick review. First thing you do is you put it into your short-term memory by memorizing that fragment of music 3 times. And if you do that every day, it gradually makes its way to your medium-term memory. So this is great. Once you've put something into your medium-term memory, then you can keep putting it back in there again and again and again, and it gradually gets easier and easier to remember. So this is how I did my recital at university. However, there are pieces at my recital now that I can't remember anymore. Even though I practiced them like 1,000,000 times and kept putting it into my medium-term memory, it would still take me some time to review it. So how do we get something from our medium-term into our long-term memory? And the answer to that is you forget it and then you review it again. Now that might seem a little bit strange, but if we forget something, right? if I were to do my recital and then wait a week, I'm going to start forgetting little bits of music in my recital, right? And then if I go and review that again, it starts to make its way to my long-term memory. And now let's just say I leave it for another 2 weeks and then review it again. Goes towards my long-term memory. Now let's just say I leave it for like 2 or 3 months, and you gradually make that space bigger and bigger until eventually you can remember it after not playing it for an entire year or even 2 years. You can still come back and remember that piece. And that is done by forgetting the piece and then reviewing it again, all right? You could play the piece every single day of your life, and sure, that might eventually put it in your long-term memory, but who's got time for that, right? So this is the process of memorizing a piece of music, memorizing anything, to be honest. You put it into your short-term memory, and then you keep putting it into your short-term memory until it makes its way to your medium-term. And then you keep putting it into your medium-term memory until it makes its way eventually to your long-term memory. Now, this is a fantastic framework, a fantastic way to think about music, and it liberates you, because rather than sitting there and spending hours and hours doing something over and over again so that it becomes boring and monotonous, all you have to do is remember it a few times and then review it the next day. That's it. That's all you have to do to memorize music. I mean, sure, there's a few other things at play, like memorizing shapes can create stronger hooks so that you can make this process smaller and smaller. But really, that's the crux of it. Just memorize it and then review it, and you'll be able to eventually put it into your medium-term memory and play the piece, and then your long-term memory. Hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it for you guys. And as usual, if you think of anybody else who might like it too, then feel free to share it with them. All right, I'll see you in the next video.